Right, so as Tory Conference draws to a close today, Sunak currently delivering his keynote speech as I'm recording this. I wonder if anybody's bothered to stay for it. The biggest takeaway from it all, though, is that this is a government that is so addicted to lying you'd think Boris Johnson had never left now. Still being run in his dishonest way. Except it's not just him doing the lying with impunity, with every drawn breath. It's literally been every minister, pretty much, that has got up to speak in that main hall. And just like Johnson, in order to keep the lies going, more lies have to be told to back them up. The lies get bigger and bolder and more unbelievable until we finally reach the spectacles that we've witnessed at this conference, where you have to wonder how they can possibly top the lies they're now telling, where even the BBC is calling out the dishonesty, where they're literally being heckled by their own members to the point they're throwing them out. Rishi Sunak is running an operation now built on conspiracy theories and lies, so how he thinks he can turn that into a winning strategy, I cannot fathom. And with his own ministers buying into that strategy, it's almost like they want to lose the next general election. Right, so, mad, unbelievable Tory lies. We thought they'd peaked the other week when Sunak gave that ridiculous speech about meat taxes and 7 bins for your rubbish and recycling. Some of the more charitable commentators might have thought, well, it's the stress getting to him, he needs a break. Clearly, he's sinking faster than the Titanic with a deck full of lead weights. It was like he'd invoked his inner Boris Johnson. He thought to himself, if I can lie with as much gay abandon as Bozo could, I can pull this out of the bag. Because he's a winner. Rather than accepting the fact he was a dangerous charlatan, we all now see through, or most of us, except the extremely batshit ones, only interested in self-gratification as he was, who wanted all the privilege of becoming Prime Minister without having to do any of the work. But still it seems to me that this is Sunak's strategy, and he's clearly run it past his own cabinet, and they appear to have ended up in full agreement, because come this conference, they're all at it. And it has almost turned into a performance as to who can come up with the most absurd pack of lies going, like they've got some sort of a prize pot at the end of the conference for the minister who gets away with the most crackers piece of policy announcement or smear on the opposition. People are suffering in poverty, cursed with failing services, and these idiots think it's a game, grinning as they lie through their teeth. Perhaps I'm looking at it wrongly, though. Perhaps it's more the opposite is true. Sunak can't govern to save his life, can't even maintain control of his party because he is an absolute weakling. He's had 2 rival Tory factions draw up their own manifestos at this conference, and fringe event speakers like Liz Truss have won bigger audiences than his ministers have, unless they happen to be utterly deranged already, like Suella Braverman was, who did manage to pack out the main hall yesterday. Perhaps the lying is a parody of what Sunak did the other week. Perhaps they're all in on bringing him down as soon as his 1-year grace period as leader is over. Are enough letters of no confidence in to trigger him as soon as he's no longer safe, and ministers are positioning themselves away from him by being so ridiculous? Well, it seems a bit far-fetched, but then this is a Tory party. Who would put anything past them? But, if so, they're quite mad to be bringing their own reputations down meanwhile. But then I can't quite fathom the mentality of people who join and campaign for the Tory party to start with. But that's just me. They must appeal to somebody, though, even if they never appeal to me. At any rate, with lies such as we've heard, I'm struggling to see how anyone could be stupid enough to believe any of it. One of the first to stand up and talk utter nonsense was somebody most Tories actually considered one of the more sensible ones. But what he went on to say was nuts. Mark Harper is the current Transport Secretary, and he made up a load of guff concerning so-called 15-minute cities, which is a planning concept conceived by a Colombian urbanist called Carlos Moreno, where basically the shops, the parks, the doctor, etc. are all provided within a 15-minute walk of residential neighbourhoods. Less reliance on public transport or private cars is the idea, all much more environmentally friendly and healthy for us all as we all get out and walk instead. Not according to Mark Harper, it's not. He claimed it was a United Nations plot to keep us all in our own homes, and that local councils would ration road use and would be able to dictate when we could go to the shops and when we couldn't. And he also made claims saying we're all going to be subjected to blanket 20-mile-an-hour speed limits when these have only been used to date, subject to local conditions. Michael Gove was less imaginative when he got up to speak as Levelling Up Secretary, because he decided to rake up "we got Brexit done" with a rehash on that old classic, because he stood up and said Brexit has been delivered and membership of the world's fastest growing trade bloc secured. That'll be their CPTPP trade deal worth peanuts compared to what we have with the EU. But anyway, he continued, and there is now more than £350 million extra a week for our NHS. Yes, he literally wheeled out Boris Johnson's bus promise as if it was empirical fact, rather than the biggest and most blatant lie of the entire Brexit campaign. He got applause to it. So if I'm wondering who could be so stupid as to be sucked in by all of this, well, they were sat in the audience. Claire Coutinho, the new Energy and Net Zero Minister who took over from Grant Shapps when he got shuffled off the defence, is someone for whom lying ought to come quite naturally, not just because she's a Tory, but because she was also a senior fellow at the right-wing, oil giant-funded right-wing think tank Policy Exchange in 2021. So she's sure to be for reducing fossil fuels, isn't she? Not. As just last week she accused climate change zealots of actually being the biggest threat to net zero themselves, not the fact a former think tanker beholden to fossil fuels being in charge of weaning the country off our use of fossil fuels might be. At any rate, she brought up Sunak's meat tax again as a swipe at Starmer, saying in her speech, "It's no wonder Labour are so relaxed about taxing meat. Sir Keir Starmer doesn't eat it, and Ed Miliband is clearly scarred after his encounter with a bacon sandwich. Oh, he, titter ye not. I'll be the first in line to rinse Starmer and co over their dishonesty and lies. Get in the queue. But given there's so much to choose from already, why make up ones that aren't actually true, Claire?" Oh, well, she sat there smugly talking to Sophie Ridge about this comment, utterly unapologetic, thinking she was so smart and so clever, and gleefully admitting she'd written it herself because it's so witty and funny. The biggest show of dishonesty, and easily the most dangerous one, has come from Suella Braverman's speech yesterday, which was as horrifying as it was dishonest. She referred to our human rights and the Human Rights Act that enshrines them all in law as criminal, and saying it should be called the Criminal Rights Act. Well, which ones should be illegal then? Right to life, right to get married, right to a free trial, or a fair trial even. She attacked wokeism, which is just being aware of what shit the likes of her are pulling, and I'm perfectly happy to be woke. It's better than being a walking multi-pack of see you next Tuesdays like she is. She made transphobic comments, she made homophobic comments, and it was so bad. The one chap, a guy called Andrew Boff, a Conservative member of the London Assembly no less, so an elected Tory official himself, got thrown out of her speech for calling it homophobic and saying she was talking trash about gender ideology. Then, of course, there were her claims of a hurricane of migrants coming here, reminiscent of David Cameron calling them a swarm. When if Braverman, a second-generation immigrant herself, wants to make wind analogies, she's about as welcome in a position of power as a fart in a lift. She is as disgusting and dangerous as she is dishonest, grotesque, wannabe fascist who left that stage to rapturous applause. Terrifying, frankly. Rounding the day off yesterday, you had Michelle Donnellan on Newsnight getting the Victoria Derbyshire treatment. The only BBC News anchor I actually credit with an ounce of integrity. Donnellan, the Science Minister, told Derbyshire that her party is the party of facts. Facts? Really? What next then? You, the Science Minister, you're going to go on stage and tell us the Earth is flat or something? She got confronted with the lies of Mark Harper and Claire Coutinho and went off on one saying people had been calling for a meat tax. That said, she did come out with the most honest statement of the entire conference spectacle by also saying on that programme that her party should stand up for divisiveness and promote hatred more, but even that was a Freudian slip, alas. Facts, she says. What a donut. I don't know how Sunak will top this. He hasn't spoken at time of writing. Perhaps he'll escalate to 10 bins. I'll have a look at it and have a watch later. I will put myself through that so you don't have to. I have no idea what he's currently saying at this moment in time. Functionally, though, this conference has been a display of disunity, dangerous lies, and a culture building up that by inventing stories about non-existent policies, the Tories think they can win an election by pretending to have done things they haven't. As much as critics and opponents of the current right-wing Labour leader are, like me, about his lies and pledge breaking, it'll get lost in the noise of how insane the Tory party now sounds. They have zero credibility now. They've nothing to offer at all. They're heading towards electoral oblivion, and they seem to want to go out by telling the biggest lies they've ever told. What have you made of the conference coverage, though? Have you put yourself through watching some of it? Have you picked up the odd bits from social media? What has been your biggest takeaway from it? Do let me know in the comments and be part of the conversation. For my money, Keir Starmer ought to be delighted. But he's got his own conference next week. He might not want to get too gleeful too quickly, especially if his conference becomes peppered with a pack of lies itself. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Jeremy Corbyn at least has gone after Suella Braverman for her fascistic tendencies. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.